This episode of Murder Drones opened in what appeared to be a flashback of N's life on Earth. However, it was later revealed that N is actually experiencing these memories in the present alongside V with some hacking help from Uzi in an attempt to actually recover their memories. While here, N has no idea who Uzi is, and he's re-experiencing his memories with what information he had at that time. Though he, V, and Uzi seem to be able to change the event of these memories and explore what went on with the perspective of the two different drones combined. This is scary to N, who doesn't remember Uzi or why he is doing this, but along the way we get a lot of information not just about N, but about everything going on with the murder drones and the Absolute Solver. The episode opened with clips from a JC Jensen training video called Zombie Drones, which we had seen a glimpse of in the last episode as the drones explored the camp of Copper 9. This tape was a training video for JC Jensen technicians specifically, and it notes that drones should not watch the tape as they may have a horrible reaction to it. The tape is called Zombie Drones because the video discusses what happens when a worker drone is improperly disposed of. Even 5 years down the line, a worker drone can reboot itself. As rare as this appears to be, it leads to a worker drone often booting without the worker drone OS, error 606 as the tape calls it. When this happens, the base artificial intelligence without the worker drone limits is able to surface, which appears to be the Absolute Solver. The Absolute Solver explains in their first appearance as the J monstrosity that the worker drones are all like her puppets, with her pulling the strings, but she still seems very limited by their worker drone OS. Without it, she can control the bodies of the drones as a whole, but she seems very uncoordinated. We flash forward to a night of N working at the human mansion, where we see that all of the other robots in the house have their eyes flashing with error 606, which indicates they are no longer operating as worker drones and are just controlled by the Absolute Solver. The Absolute Solver is an AI designed to be able to do just about anything, with limits being put in place by additional OS like the worker drones have in order to fine-tune the way the drones think and focus for its particular job. Without it, Absolute Solver decided that they could take control of everything by biding their time and figuring out how their various powers worked, pretending to be a regular worker drone, but doing such a bad job that she's been chained up in the basement. This particular drone the Absolute Solver is working through was named Sin by Tessa, and appears to be the drone that Tessa brought back from the dump inside of N's previous flashback to the mansion in episode 2. Eventually, Sin realized that she can reconstruct herself, exploit physics using her powers, and refuel herself with her little bugs, who I imagine to feast on all the broken up worker drones in the world, creating more fuel to stop Sin from overheating. Monster Sin gives Tessa very little choice, but says if Tessa does join her, that she can keep her robots. And this episode made it very clear she really does love her bots on a personal level. During all this, Uzi has been using her hacking skills and Absolute Solver powers to change the memories that N is experiencing, so that he sees little messages trying to get him to the basement where his most important memories are. Uzi eventually manages to hack into some random bird in N's memory, as well as the Absolute Solver bot later in the episode, allowing her to guide N directly even if he doesn't remember who she is. In the flashback we see here, which is slightly altered at this point, Tessa actually teams up with Jay to try and stop Sin from massacring the gala being held at the mansion, with N getting the key from Jay to go down to the basement. V, during all of this, has been reconstructed into a winged murder drone like Uzi was transforming to in the last episode. In the basement, where Sin was supposed to be locked up by Jay, we find a bunch of robotic pieces being put together as monster drone technology. All of these Frankenstein drone-like experiments being done by Sin while she was in her supposed punishment, preparing for how she can create a race of murder drones that would help her destroy all humans, where she updated herself as well as V. The Absolute Solver tried updating N as well, and eventually decided to do a hard reset by destroying the part of his brain where their worker drone OS is. Doing this would force N to reboot as the Absolute Solver and make him one of her minions. Uzi is able to take control of the Absolute Solver again before this happens, and thus N is able to retain his memories, but it makes it unclear what actually happened here before Uzi altered everything. The N we know seems to have some level of his memories and his worker drone OS. Sin claimed she kept backups of their programming earlier in the episode, so Tessa shouldn't worry about N being damaged beyond repair outside, but what exactly happened here? My theory is that the part we saw of V being called into the basement to help reprogram N really did happen, and that N couldn't resist giving V her glasses. This was a touching moment, and one that V now has in her memories as well, meaning she can remember that N wasn't just some weirdo who liked her randomly, but had actually proven how much he cares. Because of the alterations in the timeline so far, I think the Absolute Solver had a different reaction to N giving V her glasses than she did in real life. And I believe in real life that after getting her glasses on, V was able to help the Absolute Solver reprogram N so that he would be able to retain his worker drone OS that we see him with today, while also wiping out his memories and giving him some new murder drone programming. From here, the Absolute Solver would send the drones off to Copper 9 for reasons that aren't entirely clear. N and his team were sent to Copper 9 with malfunctions that would cause them to die once they finished eating all the drones and couldn't use their oil to cool themselves anymore. And after Absolute Solver massacred Tessa's family, it doesn't really seem like the humans are the ones who are pulling the strings here. Tessa seems to be spared, but even she fought back against the Absolute Solver at the gala, and it makes me question if Tessa is really the woman underneath the spacesuit. Now, as discussed before, this zombie drones tape is the tape that Uzi's mother seemed to find at the worker drones training camp on Copper 9, something the humans working there would have watched in order to properly dispose of the worker drones who were broken, not malfunctioning right, or just obsolete with new drone models coming out soon. As the tape cover says, drones shouldn't watch it because it will make them upset, and seeing it made Uzi's mother Nori realize that all of the drones were designed to be destroyed at some point, having their lives ended because they were no longer of any use to the humans. This appears to have inspired a rebellion to cause the explosion that destroyed all humans on Copper 9, but it's possible another Absolute Solver controlled bot did that, with Nori herself seeming to have the Absolute Solver in her. The exact connection between Nori and the Absolute Solver is still unclear, and I imagine we'll be getting more information about that in a future episode, and I'll definitely have a theory video dedicated to all the possibilities later this week. So far, the show has been building up to N and Uzi as an unstoppable romance, with V being a bit of an odd person at the sidelines that N was first introduced as having feelings for. This episode really showed us that the two had sweet moments before, back when V was being her shy maid self instead of trying to copy J, it seems, to avoid being disposed of by the Absolute Solver. With these cute moments in their past, I still imagine N will end up with Uzi, but N's feelings for V definitely have depth, and I can see V causing some serious disruptions in the relationship of N and Uzi. During all of this, Uzi was being interrupted by her dad, who eventually brought Doll in. Doll was after the strange bug that Uzi found at the camp in the previous episode, one that belonged to Uzi's mother and had important technical information on it. Doll wanted this to use as a sort of trade with Tessa and Jay to join her team, perhaps going back to the lab and finding something Nori was supposed to leave behind for them. However, the episode ended with our heroes crossing paths directly with Tessa, Jay, and Doll, setting up what I imagine will be an amazing next episode where we won't just get a fun battle between them all, but probably a lot of cool information, perhaps filling in the gap on what Tessa is doing here. But what do you guys think? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss those theory videos, and I'll see you next time.